Happy Friday, everybody. Hope everybody is having a wonderful day, enjoying, what is this, week 6, 7? It doesn't matter. It's Friday. And I'm here
Doesn't matter.
today with our friends from Straight Note, members of Straight Note Chaser. And today we are going to be going through iteration 15, our Cabernet-based port style wine. And I apologize, I didn't ask you guys up front. Do you guys have anything queued up for today? Dave?
On the video side,
Yeah.
there is something that we can play. Let's talk a little bit, and
Yeah, well, we can do it at the end, maybe.
we can do it in a minute, or we can do it at the end. But we'll definitely have some music to play, just because it's Friday, and who doesn't want music on Friday?
Yeah, why don't we wrap with that today?
All right, let's do it.
Awesome.
I'll be ready.
So it's sad. This is our last scheduled, at least, tasting together. But fitting that our final one is actually going to be our dessert wine iteration. For those of you who have not had it before, we actually did our first vintage of this back in 1997 and thought it was going to be a one-time deal where we just released it as port. At that time, port was not a protected place name, and bottled about 80 cases of it. No Roman numerals or anything. Turns out we didn't order enough glass, so the following year we made a little bit more. Didn't like the blend of the 97 and 98, so we made even more in 99 and created a blend of those three vintages. So we called that port Roman numeral 2. So each release is a combination of older vintages and younger vintages. So the 15 today is a blend of 1997 through 2014 vintage Cabernet ports. And by great coincidence, actually, today Becca and I moved iteration 16, and we finished that final blend today, getting ready to bottle that in 2 weeks. And that will incorporate vintages all the way up to 19. So for those of you tasting at home, and you guys, if you haven't already, pour some into your glass, or in DR's case, glasses, and let's have some fun.
What should I start with? Should I start with just the regular wine glass?
I'd say pour all three at the same time and see how it smells differently.
All right.
Before we went live, Dave was asking what size glass, and he brought 3 glasses in. I said, you know what? Let's do all 3.
Regular wine, sort of a white wine glass. And then I've got kind of a snifter here for whiskeys or bourbons. And then I've also got more of a like a Scotch whiskey snifter. So here we go.
You said 1997?
1997 is the oldest, yeah.
Do you happen to know who the Stanley Cup champions were in 1997?
Not the Sharks. I could say that for every year.
Oh, you should look it up.
Oh, I will.
I mean, I could really smell the cab in this.
Yeah, I get a little bit more. I get a little bit more of the fruit with this glass, and a little bit more of this, like the baking spice with this one.
I'm getting some alcohol on the nose too.
Oh yeah, for sure.
Definitely getting that dark fruit.
For those of you at home who aren't familiar, this being a port style wine, this is fortified. So we stop the fermentation about halfway through by adding in a 140 proof brandy, and that alcohol spikes up, killing the yeast, preserving the natural sugar of the vine. So there's no added sweeteners or sugars to this. It's the natural sugar off the grape. It also preserves a lot of those fun mid-fermentation aromas too that you don't typically see in a finished product.
And we're cooking with gas on this, Andy. This is 20.6, so this is no joke.
No.
When I popped the bottle and smelled the cork, I immediately recognized that this is a higher alcohol than we normally roll with. But that makes sense since it's more of a port style wine, right?
Well, and also it's Friday, which means, it's Friday.
Can you see the legs on that? Is that coming through?
Yeah.
Definitely got some thicker legs.
So this is a very specific note that I'm getting, but I'm getting, if I take like a deep breath in the glass, I'm getting flavored hookah tobacco.
Ooh.
Which none of you guys would probably really know what that smells like, but I'm getting a lot of that.
Watermelon,
watermelon. That smell because of you.
Mint watermelon. Is that what you're getting?
No.
I actually built a fire outside with my boys, and we were roasting some hot dogs. So I'm getting a lot of that sort of oak from the smoke on my hand that I'm kind of have to.
I'm getting a bit of a Hebrew National notes.
We're about 82 degrees here, so there's no need for a fire today.
Well, the fire's more for making s'mores and toasting hot dogs than it is for the heat, though it is pretty chilly here today.
So Andy,
Andy and Paula, how's the weather for you guys?
It is gorgeous. I actually was letting off some steam, so I was out disking, tearing up some soil, doing tractor work, and all of a sudden I looked at my watch and said, "Oh, I've got to go inside." It's probably 80, 85, but bright blue sky. I'm actually looking forward to going home and jumping in the swimming pool.
Nice.
Yeah, I was kind of the same thing. I'm outside. We're sitting around the fire, just kind of enjoying it. The boys are playing in the back, and I'm like, "Wait a minute, what time is it?" It was like, "It's 10:00." I was like, "Oh, I should probably go do this thing."
Yeah. Great coloring on this, by the way. I mean, just beautiful, beautiful color on it. You'd see the legs on it.
Yeah, it's really sticking to the glass. Like it's really got some heavy legs. Is that a result of the brandy, do you think, or?
Legs are essentially just an expression of physics and its vapor pressure. So the higher alcohol, all those legs is the alcohol evaporating off, condensing on the sides of the glass and coming back down. So DR, especially with 3 different shaped glasses, is probably going to see different patterns forming in his glass over time.
Right.
Yeah, this one's smoother. I think the whiskey snifter gets a little bit heavier, which I think you would expect. You get some heavier legs on that.
See, the longer I have this open, the less alcohol I'm getting, and the more, sort of baking spice vibe is coming through. I mean, I'm still getting the alcohol in the nose, but I'm definitely getting more of that bacon spice as the oxygen hits the glass.
Mm-hmm.
Let's dive in.
The interesting thing is when you're making a wine like this is that it's a totally different mindset in terms of how you treat the wine in the cellar. I don't have to add sulfur to it. The high alcohol has an antimicrobial. The high sugar is an antioxidant. So it's very tough for this wine to oxidize in barrel. This fall, I'm releasing our first single vintage 10-year barrel aged port, where I just took 2 barrels and put them in the back of the winery and didn't top them, just ignored them for 10 years.
So you're saying this is very healthy because it's packed with antioxidants?
Absolutely. It's better than injecting yourself. It's better than injecting yourself a disinfectant.
You talking to the right crowd on that one.
So after my first sip, admittedly, I'm not someone that enjoys port. What I notice about this is, when I compare it to some of the other port style wines I've had, is it's not as abrasive as a lot of the ones I've had before. It's not, your face and mouth don't pucker up. It's like that's generally my reaction when I drink a port. But this one, I don't know if it's because it has more cab in it. I don't know what exactly the blend is, but it definitely goes down a lot easier than any of the ports I've had before.
Yeah, you know what I know, and to that point, Seggie, it's less syrupy,
Yeah.
for lack of a better term, than a lot of
Mhm.
ports, you know, I've experienced in the past. And, you know, as a, digestive, you know, I'll have a port from time to time. And, you know, this would be a nice segue from a cab for dinner into this. You know, and again, this isn't something I would have multiple glasses of. If I was drinking this as a digestive, I would have one glass, share it with the table, and that would be good for me. You know, but it is like the perfect way to end a great meal, in my opinion, with a dessert like Seggie's got. Can you make me jealous again with that dessert?
Yeah. So Andy, you tasked us with bringing a dessert, and I didn't want to go to the store or anything, so I had contactless delivery from PF Chang's, and this
Wow.
is their Great Wall chocolate cake. This is not an ad. I get nothing from them, um, and it's actually a really good piece of cake. Obviously, it's massive and it's more than enough for the entire family. But we'll see how it goes with this port.
Leo's gonna crush that later.
Oh,
I actually have
he will not be touching this whatsoever.
I have some 72% cacao from Belgium.
Oh, nice.
So that's what I'm going to be pairing with this.
Becca,
I'll
to
say that
celebrate today to celebrate being Friday, Becca brought in cupcakes from Sweetie Pies, and I saw them in the fridge, and I should have grabbed one to bring in. They are chocolate cupcakes injected with raspberry filling, with just ridiculous amounts of ganache on top,
I love
and that
it.
raspberry with the chocolate with the port.
Mm. Yeah.
You know, David, you were talking about just enjoying a glass, and one thing that's good about port, sometimes people are hesitant to buy it because we'll only have a glass and then it will go bad because of the high sugar, because of the high alcohol. You can put the cork back in it, leave it room temperature on your counter out of sunlight, and come back a week later, 2 weeks later, and still continue to enjoy it. It's not going to turn vinegary or sour or start to spontaneously re-ferment on you.
Absolutely. You know, for instance, I'm thinking about the next time I have a dinner party, whenever that's going to be, and you know, being able to, you know, to serve this as, like I said, as a digestive. You know, thinking about, you know, segmenting the meal with various wines, and you know, this would be fun to add to that. Hey, you know, you don't have to go, but you can't stay here type last salvo for the meal.
Final.
Yeah.
I'll say the chocolate, the cake with it kind of removes a lot of the sweetness and takes away any like hints of alcohol, and it just kind of, I don't know, blends in with the chocolate, and seems like, I don't know if you ever had those candies where there's a little bit of liqueur inside. It's kind of got that effect when I have a piece of the cake and then wash it down with the pork.
So before I took a bite of the chocolate, I was kind of thinking that even though it's higher alcohol, you don't really feel a burn. It's still very smooth, velvety. It's not dry, you know, it finishes clean. I do still smell a lot of that cap on the nose. And then I took a bite of the cacao, of the, you know, high cacao chocolate, and washed it down with the wine. And I just got a flood of that delicious chocolatey velvet finish. It was absolutely amazing.
What's your go-to to pair with this, Andy?
I was about to say the typical thing around the house. Well, Paula does an amazing. Paula, if you're able to, she's got another meeting going on, but she makes a souffle. But then what we do a lot for parties here at the winery is Sally's port brownies. Yes, there's an R in that. It's port brownies, not the other type of brownies. She will take the Ghirardelli brownie mix And so here's her secret is you have to add some vegetable oil, an egg, and some water. She replaces the water with port. So actually the brownie batter is port infused, and it creates a fruitier, moister brownie.
All right.
I like that.
Yeah, we need your desserts.
Yeah, PF Chang's did not offer that.
And that's why I can't lose weight.
How often do you get, is that something that's in regular rotation?
Pretty much anytime we do a special party here at the winery, we'll have either Sally's Brownies, or the other thing is with Napuro, which is our Chardonnay-based dessert wine. Megan, our daughter, has started making a small peach tarts.
Oh, cool.
A Chardonnay dessert wine. You want to tell us about that?
Yeah, well, I started that after when I went to Portugal in 2015. A couple of things happened. I mean, it was one of those amazing trips where you came back, and anytime you have a great trip where you not only broaden your mind but come up with new ideas how you can pursue your craft all that much better, is a wonderful trip. And during that trip, actually on my first night, one of my buddies on the trip brought me a cocktail, and it was a Porto Tonico. It was white port, tonic water on the rocks. And I had never had white port before. So during that course of that trip, I kept looking for more white port. And you come home back to the States and you rarely find it domestically. If you do, it's a very cheaply made, bottom shelf, $3 for a 1.5 liter bottle of Drek. So during the 2015 harvest, I was smelling my Chardonnay mid-fermentation and said to myself, if you added the brandy to this right now, just like you do for your Cabernet port, you could make an amazing white port. Well, I didn't have any brandy to do that with in 15. I made sure I did in 16. So the 16 was our first vintage. It's 100% Chardonnay. And like with the Cabernet, I calculate out what I want my finished sugar, my finished alcohol to be, and then I add the brandy at a particular point to capture that moment in time.
What's the flavor profile on that? How does that differ from this? Is it instead of the red fruits, you're getting more of the peach flavors and some of those lighter fruits?
Well, first of all, probably white instead of red.
Right.
So
I don't like to assume color, DR.
DR gets the Captain Obvious Award for the day. It has that characteristic white peach and honeycomb. Along with a cherry blossom aroma to it. And it works very well with a lot of stone fruit, fig-based desserts, as well as both the Napuro and Iteration both work well with cheese courses. And you'll notice I stopped calling this port. Also coming back from that trip to Portugal, I am legally grandfathered in to call this port because I predate the legal protection of Portugal as a protected place name. But I looked around to my peers in the sparkling wine world and how many California sparkling wine producers still call their product champagne. You have Corbel, Andre, Cook. Is that really the company I want to keep in my parallel world of port style wines? So I was already thinking about dropping the name port. And we would have guests here in the tasting room, and you'd be hosting them. And let's set the scene. And the last wine I have for you today is our port. Oh, no, thank you. I don't like port. All right, let's try a different way. The last wine I have for you today is our Iteration. Iteration, what is that? Tell me more. The people have a preconceived notion of what port is. They think it's syrupy and cloying. A lot of port-style wines domestically are made to make up for accidents or cover up flaws. Zinfandel is commonly harvested at a very high Brix, high sugar. And those wines are very prone to stuck fermentations. When you have a stuck fermentation, the acetic acid can go flying through the roof. You may never get that wine completely dry. So your choice is either bottle a slightly sweet, very alcoholic Zinfandel, or fully embrace it and turn that wine into a port. And that's what I call an oh shit port, because you're basically taking lemons and trying to make lemonade. Well, it's not sweet enough. So first they have to sweeten it. So in that world, you would have to add grape juice concentrate to sweeten it. That is perfectly legal in California, but you're going to get those burnt sugars from the concentrate process. And then they might go out and buy neutral grain spirits at $2 a gallon, and you're going to have a very hot, high alcohol burn to your port. We actually partnered with Germain Robin. Today they're called Alembic Incorporated, back in 1999, and I've been buying my brandies from them ever since then. And this is a very high quality, double distilled in alembic pot stills, looks copper onion domes. And it typically runs me about $120 a gallon for the brandy that I add into this. And a finished bottle is almost 24% of that brandy. So even though this is one of my more expensive products, it's one of our lowest profit margin because of the cost of the brandy we put into it. But it's fun.
Yeah, that makes sense. I mean, the brandy is a quarter of the product, so you might as well use something high quality. Otherwise, like you said, if you use that $2 a gallon stuff, you're gonna know as soon as you taste it. And for someone who doesn't like port style wines, I can tell the difference between this and some of the other stuff I've had, because when I first drank it, I wasn't puckering. I didn't get that syrupy experience. There wasn't a whole lot of burn in my throat, no heartburn or anything like that. So there's certainly a big difference between this and like anything I've had like this before.
You know what I'm getting as this is opening more? Apricot.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know if that's vibing for anybody else.
Starting to get a lot of fig.
More like dried apricot.
Exactly.
I'm not mad at that.
Yeah.
I like apricot.
Yeah.
I feel like I should be smoking a cigar or something.
We've got 120 of them.
Yeah, that's the second time this week you've brought those up. It's time.
I think it is, but the kids are still awake. So. Well, it's been snowing here. It's been snowing, so it makes it a little difficult to go outside and smoke a cigar.
Wait, it snowed again today?
No, today was decent. We got to like 52, I think.
Isn't it the end of April?
I don't know, man. I have no idea. I don't know what month, what day. I don't know anything anymore.
April can be very cold still. It doesn't usually get really consistently warm until May.
Which is a full week away.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it's.
Hey, you're from Delaware. Do you forget how quickly we forget, huh?
Dude, I got to tell you, April. I mean, we didn't really have. I mean, April showers bring May flowers, kind of thing. But I mean, I don't remember it being that cold. But again, I haven't lived there in 20 years.
Even the difference between Chicago and Indianapolis, just that little bit, that 3-hour drive north, there's a big difference. I mean, even in Indianapolis, April was more consistently warm than it is up here.
Lake effect, man.
Up here, like it's freaking.
The
lake actually keeps it more consistent, right? The lake keeps it warmer than it would be otherwise in the winter, and then slightly cooler than it would be otherwise in the summer.
That's fair. But you get the winds, though.
Yeah, we're a little bit inland from that, so we don't. It's a windy city. Blow hard, and there's a lot of wind.
Oh, well, Paula dinged me. The one thing I didn't tell you is, so the final nail in the coffin of us stopping to call it port.
Oh, yes. Sorry.
I got a phone call from a gentleman I met while I was in Portugal, George Sandeman. You may know that name. His family owns the Sandeman Port House. And I had given him a bottle of our port as a gift. And he said, in the phone call, basically boiled down to, I would be proud to have you as one of my neighbors. You make a better port style wine than most of the winemakers here in Portugal, but you're not in Portugal. You're not using our real name. So I've reached out to the government and I've gotten permission to extend a knighthood to you in exchange to signing away your legal right to the name port.
Oh, wow.
So I was unable to go to the ceremony in Portugal, but Paul and I went to a nice dinner in San Francisco with lots of diplomats. Our Congressman Mike Thompson was there, and they actually initiated 5 of us, 1 chef and 3 other winemakers, into the Brotherhood of Portugal. The title is Cavallero, and the last bit of advice we had before the ceremony was from the Duke's wife, the Duchess, who she said, now my husband has a little bit of palsy and his hand shakes, so when he's lowering the sword, do not look him dead in the eyes. Do not follow the sword with your eyes because he will nick your ear.
Oh, jeez.
That's slightly unnerving.
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah. So it's nothing like having somebody with a sword hand.
Yeah.
Yeah, so we chose the name Iteration because it's a combination of multiple vintages, and each release of Iteration becomes the foundation of the following one. So it's very much like how in a mathematical formula, the output becomes the input of the next formula. So it's constantly evolving, constantly changing, always anchored in the past, but getting new vintages, bringing in new expressions to it. So what drinks better, an aged one or a current one? Well, they're kind of fun to have 3 or 4 of them side by side at a time if you really want to get serious about it. Maybe we'll have to do that for a Christmas show.
There we go. You know what? I'm impressed you didn't go with Caballero for the name. That's a cool story.
And I guess the only other port story I have is, you're talking about it being an aperitif, but when my grandmother in her latter days of struggling with Alzheimer's, some of the medication they gave her was making her a little edgy and it was hard for her to fall asleep. So my dad would bring her a bottle of port and told her to pour a small glass every night and take it half an hour before bed and it'll help you sleep. Well, the home she lived at took care of all of her own medications. The port was the only thing she self-medicated with. And it worked very well for a week or 2. A bottle is supposed to last her a week, but never have a person with Alzheimer's self-prescribing their own alcohol at the end of the night.
Oh yeah, yeah.
Did I have my good night drink it? No, let's have another one. But she slept great.
I bet.
So the makeup of this is, you said a quarter of it is brandy, and the other 3/4 is just cab, or is there?
Yeah, it's just cab. I pick one lot that typically later in the season, and I will punch it down more often and more aggressively than I normally would because it's going to have about half the time it normally would on the skins. So if I gave it the normal amount of punch downs, it wouldn't just extract as much and could be very flabby and weak. If I was this aggressive with my normal Cabernet productions, it would be very bitter, tannic, cottonmouth sensation when you tried to drink it if I made it as a finished wine, a dry wine.
You know, I could kind of see how this would be good as like a mixed cocktail type drink on ice with some, even just soda, some carbonation.
Maybe some Fanta.
No, I mean, it's got all the flavor you need, you know.
Grape Fanta.
It's got all the flavor. It's almost like, you know, creating a port sangria almost, you know.
I'm surprised you guys didn't pick up on that. That's a Steve Lunt reference. Because he would, for a couple of our records out there in LA, he would get like a handle of port, the cheap stuff, and some Fanta, and he would export in Fanta, and that would be his his cocktail at the end of the session.
No way.
/ during. Yeah, no, seriously. It was at Glenwood Place. Steve, Sig, you don't remember that?
Vaguely, but listen, you gotta respect the guy because desperate times, right? Getting through an acapella studio session calls for desperate measures, and I don't blame him.
What flavor Fanta?
Well, I think the orange. I 100% have a photo of him with like a Fanta and a port. I'll find it. I'll send it to you.
I mean, I'm just, I'm not a soda drinker, so that sort of grosses me out to start. But
yeah, totally.
Thinking about soda and a port together.
I was saying soda water.
No, not
I thought you were going.
Yeah.
I thought you were going to that. I thought you were going to a joke about.
No. Well, because Andy was talking about the port with the tonic.
Mm-hmm.
Right, the white port and the tonic. Yeah.
Yeah, it's almost like an Aperol spritz in Italy, right?
Yeah.
But a Portuguese version of it. I might try that out. I don't have any soda here though.
You've got my brain thinking now too, which is a scary thing. I'm thinking a really good craft root beer.
Oh, interesting.
Mm.
Somebody's not a fan of it.
Sounds like Friday.
Those aren't mine.
Those are mine. I just muted them.
Mine are surprisingly still outside. Normally they're into the fire only so long as they have a s'more or a hot dog. Then after that, they're ready. They come back inside.
It helps when you lock the door, Dave.
Ooh, that's a great tip, Seg. I'll keep that in mind for next time.
Try it with soda water.
Fanta?
Okay, so Dave, I want to know which of the glasses is tasting the best right now.
So this snifter, I felt for a while was giving the best aromas, but as it's kind of opened up and as I'm doing, I've consolidated everything just into sort of the regular wine glass, and that's given the most consistent of flavor, and I mean, it's super subtle. You'd be fine with either of them. But as I'm enjoying some food and, letting it open up and consistently going back to the nose, I think just regular wine glass is crushing.
DR, did you have your hot dogs yet, or were you just cooking them?
I had my hot dog.
Okay.
Snack. We had a snack. I mean, it's when we started this, it was 5 o'clock, so we were grilling hot dogs at 4. Just having a little snack, getting the boys outside.
Nice.
I think we've got salmon. I think we've got some salmon on deck for.
Okay, so that was like the pre-boy before the real boy.
That was the boy before the boy.
Yeah.
Right.
Got it.
Well, this is so, and in that same vein, we're having dessert first tonight.
Yeah. So that'll be interesting. Now thinking about going into the rest of your night. I mean, what are you going to drink from here?
Well, I've got some really good local IPA hazy New England style beers that are they're single releases. So there's a couple places nearby here one's called Hot Butcher, another is called Maplewood. That I talk about, and another one is called Phase 3, and these are sort of small micro brews that they don't have a schedule of beer that they release. They just kind of make beer that they feel like making, and they put it out, and you kind of have to be, following their socials or have ins at the various beer. Like I go to this place called Beer Temple. And then my buddies and I are always like, hey, Phase 3 just released their creme, which is a lactose IPA that is phenomenal. So I've heard. I've never had it. I just got some. It's cooling down, so I'm going to try some of that tonight.
Oh, nice. Yeah.
And if you've never had a lactose beer, it's got a thicker, it's like, it feels almost like a milkshake sort of mouthfeel. It's really heavy. And then, you know, they make, Maplewood makes it with like strawberry or blueberry or peach. And those are always a little bit more sweet for my liking. But a friend of mine whose palate I respect said that this double IPA milkshake from Phase 3, the creme, is legit. So I've never tried it. I've got it on deck for tonight. I'm pretty excited about it.
Oh, that's a whole different thing. I think Seggie and I are in the same boat here. I mean, I'm just really not a beer guy at all. But you know, if I'm gonna have a beer, it's a light beer. You know, it's that I like that Maui Golden. You know, if I'm gonna have a beer, I'll have one of those. That's like my sort of go-to. I can't do the IPAs, anything super heavy. Just not my.
I'll tell you what. Next time we hang out, all of us, and hopefully Andy, you'll be a part of this. I'll bring a 4-pack of one of these IPAs because they look thick and sometimes they have a thick mouthfeel, but they can be light and citrusy and refreshing.
Well, I know Andy's a beer guy. He likes
I'm a floral, fruity. I like my beers like I like my women, bitter. Love you, Paula.
I don't think you're getting that souffle tonight.
Yeah. No, she's used to that joke. And no, I do like the fruity complexities that you get with hops. And, you know, it's not so much like during harvest when it's really hot. A fair amount of Coors Light and Bud Light is drunk that time of year because that's just like enhanced water. But end of the day, you can't beat a good double IPA.
Yeah.
Yeah, and so Maplewood does a double dry hopped double IPA that they call Big Pulpy, and they've got a whole line. They're very similar, like Hop Butcher, Maplewood, and Phase 3. They just kind of brew whatever they feel like, and so you kind of have to be quick. I used to roll in there with a growler, but they don't do that. They're not doing that right now, so kind of gotta go in and grab 4-packs where I can.
Lagunitas has become nationwide enough that you keep your eye open for it in your more high-end grocery liquor stores. They have a seasonal beer called Born Yesterday, and it's a fresh hopped. And then they
like a wet hop?
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
And in the counterpoint of that, they actually take some of those wet hops, freeze-dried them, and they make them off-season, and that's called Born Again Yesterday.
Ah, interesting. So Lagunitas has like 150,000 square foot brewery just south of here in Chicago.
Right.
So I will definitely keep an eye out for that. I'll get it fresh.
So Andy, what now that we had this awesome beverage at round 3, what will you dive into the rest of the day?
I think you know what there is downstairs we have some Sierra Nevada tropical torpedo. And so it's a summertime variation on their torpedo, which is their version of a double IPA, but it's more Citra hops to bring out some more of the tropical citrus aromas of the hop characteristics. So it's not pineapple flavored, but it has pineapple aromas to it.
Oh, interesting. That's a nice segue after this. That sounds about perfect.
Yeah, you got to kind of ease your way back into the day.
Yeah.
With a double dry hop IPA. Yeah, the Citra hops, you see a lot of that Citra hop being used, the Galaxy hops. There's a couple others that I'm starting to see pop up, but that Citra one is definitely one of my favorites. When I see that on a beer label, I just grab it.
Dive into that.
Another good one I've seen, I haven't seen it much locally. It's I think it's more only in the kegs or the what do you call the bombers, the pint-sized bottles. Is Elysium has one they call Space Dust.
Yeah, Space Dust is really good. I'm a fan.
Yeah,
We should do an
So
episode
do you guys?
on White Claw, Brits.
I mean, you know,
What's your favorite White Claw, Brits?
definitely a black cherry guy, you know. Listen, here's the thing. If you're out and you're at, you know, sort of a regular bar in any city USA, and you
Bloomington,
don't want to
Indiana.
drink a Coors Diet, you go for the claw. Claws are out, man.
So I'm thinking maybe we should do this again, like in June, and I'll talk to my distributor friends in Georgia at Eagle Rock. They're a Budweiser distributor, so they're competing against White Claw. Maybe we should do an episode where we bring in some folks from Eagle Rock, and and we could bring in a lot more of the guys and just do a straight no chaser and bring in some of the winemakers you worked with. Have like a 20-way Zoom session evaluating White Claw in competition.
Ooh.
Do it.
All
Do a
right.
blind taste if we can somehow work out a blind taste, right? Where we try and see which one we like better.
Spike Seltzer blind tasting. Look, we're gonna have people lining up for that one.
My wife would be very interested.
What are you trying to say, Seth?
I think
Nothing.
it's pretty clear, Brits.
I'm not listen. I'm not saying anything.
So what do you guys have lined up for tastings next week?
So next week we were talking about that, and we need to get you on one of these, by the way.
Oh yeah.
Sunday, we have another Dealer's Choice episode. So our Dealer's Choice episodes are the three of us, and then any guests that we have all come on, and we each bring a bottle to taste. We don't tell each other what we're bringing, and everything is sort of spontaneous on the spot, and we each talk about it. So, you know, it'd be fun to have you on one of those. We usually don't do those live. We usually pre-tape those and then, you know, post them later. But those are a lot of fun. So I think Steve Gage is going to join us on Sunday, and then we're going to have one or two other folks join us as well. And then Wednesday, the 29th, we're back live with our friend Lori Rich at Falcor. We're doing a 3 tasting live episode on Wednesday. So tasting 3 different wines.
Cool.
What about you?
Well, David, thank you for the introductions. It's been really cool. On Monday, we're going to be joined by Morgan James, and we're going to be tasting, I believe, Chardonnay, and I forget. I have to look it up. And then Wednesday, Michael Linkton will be performing, and all the guests are going to be performing live as well as tasting and talking wine.
Very
And
cool.
then Friday is John McLaughlin.
Oh, nice. You got to tell them all we said hello.
I will. And then the following week, I'm bottling, but amongst all that chaos, I have Eric Darius and Yoko, a pianist from New York. And actually, she is an associate professor at Berklee School of Music. That's Friday, May 8th, Yoko Miwa.
Oh, it's fun. Yeah. I mean, you've
Very
got
cool.
some good folks coming up. I'm a little biased. You know, most of them I know, and if they're not clients, they're friends.
Yeah.
So, that's cool. You got some good people coming up.
Yeah, and I've got a few more things in the works, so we'll be promoting those once we get hard dates and start getting wine out to them and figure out where it's going to go from here.
Yeah, I mean, that's the thing. It's, you know, we all started doing this stuff because, you know, we're at home and we're, you know, all trying to figure out how to deal with the new normal, and you know, it's sort of become fun.
Yeah.
You know, and now it's about continuing to do it, and then also figuring out how we can continue to use it as a education tool, as entertainment, as, you know, marketing, you know, all of those kind of things, and not marketing on our part, because, you know, the only marketing we'd be marketing is ourselves, but marketing is, you know, as making sure that we get to expose people in our network to the really great wines that we get exposed to. So it's just fun for us.
And the fun for me too is that there's partnering with these artists who wanted to be on tour, like Brian wanted to be out promoting his new album that's 2 weeks old now. Brian Culbertson's 20. For those of you who haven't checked it out yet, look for it on your favorite streams and then go out and buy a copy from brianculbertson.com. So many of these artists are supposed, Straight No Chaser is supposed to be on tour right now. So it's kind of fun that I'm supposed to be out selling wine, doing winemaker dinners right now. So I'm able to introduce some of my fans to my friends' music, and my friends introduce their fans to my wine, and we all grow our families a little bit more like that, like doing that.
Yeah, no, and that's and that's the thing. It's word of mouth, it's connection, it's interaction, it's community, and no matter what our respective businesses are, we're all looking to build community and introduce things that we like to our community of people, and hope that they like it too. So that's why I think this is fun. It's organic. It's not forced. And the idea is to keep having more fun and keep tasting more wine.
Yeah.
And listening to more music.
Exactly. And Cecil Ramirez, he and I are going to talk tomorrow, and I'm trying to set up a little bit of a better home studio. And so probably after bottling sometime, I'll be my own musical guest.
See?
Great.
I'm looking to put a piano. I just moved, so I'm looking to put a piano in the house. So Cecil's going to be my go-to for that.
Good. Yeah, he is a wonderful guy.
Yeah.
So David, are you going to come up and help us bottle in a couple of weeks? Next week?
Listen, if I could get out of this quarantine, I would sweep the floors. I would bottle just about anything. Trust me. You need somebody to clean your bathrooms, count me in. But
there's 10 more of us that are ready to sign up for all that as well.
I'm actually better at debottling. That's what I call it.
Now, are you excited for bottling? Obviously, it's going to be different this year.
Well, it's going to be different. It's going to be bottling is always a challenge, and you get curveballs thrown at you. And with the French tariffs, with the Chinese tariffs, with COVID-19, I was expecting some sort of supply line interruption, and I did have something crop up the other day, and it's the first time I think I have ever used the F-bomb at one of my vendors, and the poor girl was on speakerphone, and I was in front of Becca, my assistant at the time, and her mouth dropped. I've never heard you get that mad at somebody. Glass that was supposed to have been delivered to a printer 3 weeks ago isn't going to arrive until a week after bottling. And she just called me this week. It's like, had you called me when you knew there was a problem, I could have gotten the glass from another source. But fortunately, it's for Napuro, and it was going to be for the bottling of the 2019 vintage of Napuro. We haven't released 18 yet. So I actually think that another year in barrel could be a benefit. So it's not the end of the world. I'm just hoping I don't get any more hiccups along the line. The bigger challenge is that bottling, it's really hard to social distance because you've got somebody putting labels on cases as they roll off the line and somebody coming to grab the case. They're going to be 18 inches away from each other face to face. So we're just going to have we're going to mask up. I'll probably have the person who's doing the labels wearing a full face shield just to provide a mobile barrier. And the problem is that the line operator and I need to communicate, and the bottling line is noisy. So that's usually face to face yelling at each other. That's going to be hard to do with masks, but we'll get through. And on the bright side, we're bottling primarily the 2017 vintage, which is going to be one of our smaller bottling runs. In a normal vintage, this would be 3 to 4 full days of bottling. It's going to be 2 days that are probably only going to be a 2/3 day. So it's going to be shorter days, So, yeah, it's not going to be bad. Paul is in the background, sure, laughing, going, yeah, it's not that bad. I don't sleep the week leading up to bottling because there's always something you have so many moving parts and so many suppliers you have to get all set up at the same time. So, yeah, but it's going to be great.
Always is.
It'll be great because it has to be.
Exactly. Right. So my
choice.
favorite part of bottling is that beer at the end of the day, at the end of the run.
Yeah.
Amen.
A little reward.
Yeah. Well, hey guys, it was a lot of fun.
Yeah.
Thank you for joining me.
Yeah, nice talking to you again, Andy. Thanks for having us.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, don't be strangers. And Dave, you have something queued up to share with those listening at home?
I do have something queued up. Let me get ready here.
Hey, Andy, until next time, start thinking about what bottle you're going to bring to our dealer's choice.
I actually have one in mind already.
Okay. So just let us know when you're ready, and then, we'll get that episode going.
Alrighty.
Britt, you want me to intro this?
Yeah, do it, buddy.
All right. So right now we're going to be looking at a song called Icons, which is David Britt's desktop view.
Are you not seeing?
I'm just seeing your desktop.
Oh, you are?
Yeah, you got a lot of stuff on there, man.
It's a cluttered desktop.
Why are you only seeing that? I picked the right one. Let's do this again.
So this next song is a song we've never performed live.
There we go.
There we go. Off of our newest EP, Open Bar EP. This is arranged by Mr. Tyler Trepp, solo by Mr. Michael Luganbill. This is the Dan and Shay country crossover hit, Tequila.
T-shirt, the same